Hi, in this video I'm going to be solving all of the problems from our Solving Equations quiz. So this first question, we've got several ways we can look at it. The first one is to just plug in all of the different solutions. So you take 1 and you put it in here, you see what happens. 1 plus 3 going to make 4. 2 times 4 makes 8, which of course is not equal to 5. So this is not going to be our solution. Let's see if we can do that with a red mark. Not what we want. 10, plug it in. We got a 13 in the parentheses. Times 2 makes 26. Not our solution. 5.5 gives us 8.5 in here. Multiply that times 2, you get 17. Again, not 5. Negative 0.5, seeming like it's going to be the right answer. Let's make sure that we feel good about it. We plug in a negative 0.5. We get 2.5 in the parentheses. And you can use your calculator for that if you need to. Multiply it times 2. 2 times 2.5 is going to make 5. So that is your correct choice, and that's probably the route I would take to solve it, although there are other ways. We could consider maybe dividing by 2 on both sides. I'm going to use my best handwriting on here. I'm using the airliner, which makes it a little tricky. That brings us down to n plus 3 equaling 2.5. We subtract 3 on both sides. That's a little messy, isn't it? Let's see, that's better. And we get n equals negative 0.5. So another way to do it, if you prefer distributing, maybe you like to come in and send that 2n to both places. You could also solve it that way. You could come up with 2n plus 6 equaling 5. You subtract 6 to get all the numbers over on the right side. Now you've got 2n equaling negative 1. Obviously, you would just divide by 2 to get rid of that coefficient there. N is going to equal negative 0.5. So 3 ways should be sufficient. You pick whichever one works for you, and you go with it. All right, here's problem number 2, and of course remember, if you got this problem right, if you know how to solve this problem, you don't have to watch all this video. You can feel free to fast forward to the points that you really need. All right, this problem's got a decimal, makes it a little tricky, but nothing we can't handle.
Kevin Jacobson, please come to the main office. Kevin Jacobson to the main office.
Right, a little interruption there, but basically what I've done is just subtract 2 from both sides. Now I'm going to have to divide by 3, and at this point, I'm going to ask you to trust me. You could pull out your calculator if you like and find out what 8.4 over 3 is. In fact, we'll go ahead and take a look. Here's how you would do it. You're going to quit, get yourself out of there. Let's go 8.4, 8.5, that's not what I want. Replace that with an 8.4 divided by 3, and it should spit us out an answer. Here we are, 2.8 going to be our correct solution. Of course, if you were motivated to do so, you could also plug in all the wrong choices, 4.13. If we multiply that times 3, we're going to get about 12, a little more than 12. You add it, you get a little more than 14. Not the right answer. 1.47 is about 1.5, so if we multiply that times 3, we are going to get something in the neighborhood of 4.5. You add 2, you get something about 6.5, not going to work. 37.2, multiply that times 3, you're up over 100. Definitely not the right answer. On to problem number 3. What we have here on problem number 3 is a question asking what value for x makes this sentence true. This is a fancy way of saying what does x equal. Okay, don't let that verbiage throw you off there. 4x plus 2 equals 14 plus 3x. This is a situation where we have x's on both sides. We want to subtract some of them away and see if we can get all our x's together on the same side of the equation. I'm going to subtract away the smaller number of x's. That leaves me with a positive x, which is nice and easy to work with. Now I'm just going to subtract 2, and that'll have me right down to the right answer of positive 12. Of course, if you want to take a look at these other choices, you could plug them in and you'll see that they don't work. 4 times 4 makes 16, plus 2 makes 18. That is not going to equal 14 plus 12, which would of course be 26. Not the right answer. You plug a 16 in here, you got 64 plus 2 makes 66. You plug a 16 in here, you get 48 plus 14 would give you a 62. Not quite right. And last but not least, a negative 12 in here is not likely to work at all. You're going to end up with negative 48 plus 2 gives you a negative 46. And you plug in 14 plus a negative 36. And you are going to be at negative 22. Not going to be the right answer. Two sides did not match on that one. So 12 is the only answer. That works. Moving on to question 4 now. Number 4, we've got 12x minus 3x plus 4 equals 5x minus 16. I noticed I had a few x's on the left side of that equation. Let's see if we can't bring those together and recognize that we have a total of 9x on the left side plus a 4. Going to set that equal to 5x minus 16. Make that a little nicer looking there. I would subtract away the smaller number of x's, minus a 5x minus a 5x. This gives us 4x plus 4 equals negative 16. Let's subtract the 4, both sides. 4x will be equaling negative 20. Divided by 4, divided by 4, and what you'll have is x equal to negative 5. This is going to be a correct solution right over here. You take a quick look at the wrong answers. You plug in a 1. That's pretty easy to do. You got 12 minus 3 makes 9, plus 4 makes 13 on the left, and plugging the 1 on the right gives you 5 minus 16. That's a negative 11. Not going to be equal at all. Plug in a 3. You got 36 minus 9 gives you 27, plus 4 makes 31 on the left. Plug in a 3 over here, and you'll be left with 15 minus 16, which is a negative 1. Not going to work. Negative 2, plug it in, you get negative 24, plus 6 gives you negative 18, plus 4 gives you negative 14. Compare that to the right side, which would be negative 10 minus 16 gives you negative 26. Not equal. So, best way to do this problem, solve it with the algebra, double check the solution, plug it back in, check all the wrong solutions, make sure they don't work. The more checking you can do, the more you can verify, and we should double check. We put that negative 5 in. 12 times negative 5 gives us negative 60. Minus 3 times negative 5, which would be negative 15. So minus a negative 15 is like a plus 15, which would bring us to negative 45 plus a 4 brings us to negative 41. Let's make sure that's what we get over here too. Negative 25 minus 16, also negative 41. So that is the right choice. Number 5, which is the solution to this equation? First thing I would like to do on this one is probably maybe plus 1 on both sides. I could distribute. Either one is a reasonable option. Let's distribute. Got a lot of students who like to distribute, so let's take care of that. Now we got some like terms to deal with. 2x plus 7, 8 minus 1 making 7 equals 15. We're going to subtract 7 on both sides. Minus 7 minus 7. 2x equals 8. We'll divide by 2. Divide by 2. And it looks like x is going to equal 4, which is our correct solution. Of course, you can plug that 4 back in and make sure it works. 4 plus 4 makes 8, times 2 makes 16, minus 1, 16 minus 1, of course, is 15, so it works. We're all good to go. You plug 3 in there, you get 7, 14 minus 1, not equal. Plug a 5 in there, you get 9 in the parentheses, 18 minus 1, not going to be equal. 6 in there gives you 10 in the parentheses, 20 minus 1, not equal to 15. 4 is the only solution that works. Number 6, Here is another distributive example where you could use the distributive property. You're going to have 12x plus 4. Make sure to distribute to both places. Minus 2x plus 4. And this is a spot where a lot of students make a mistake. We got a minus 2 distributing into a minus 2. That's giving us a plus 4. 12x minus 2x gives us a total of 10x's plus 8 because we got a 4 plus a 4 equaling 13. I'm going to subtract that 8 away, get it moved over to the other side. I find that 10x equals 13 minus 8, which of course is 5. I am going to divide both sides by 10. And I find my answer is 5/10, also known as 1/2. And this is a good opportunity to take a quick look at a good calculator trick that can save you some headaches. Let's reopen this thing and see if it wants to work a little better. There we go. We're going to type in 5/10. You may know that 5/10 is half. You may not need this trick on this one, but you'll need it sooner or later. Math, enter, enter. We'll simplify any fraction for you. Turn 5/10 into 1/2. So keep that one in mind anytime you get a messy looking fraction. X equals half is going to be your solution there. And it gets a little messy plugging all of these fractions in, but you certainly could do it if you want to take the time with your calculator. I'll run through the correct answer real quick and just verify it. 3 times 1/2, of course, is going to be 1.5, plus 1 makes 2.5. Multiply that times 4, you'll get 10. Then we're going to subtract 2 times negative 1.5. So we've got this minus 2 multiplying times this negative 1.5. That's like adding 3. So sure enough, 10 plus 3 does make 13. All right, determine the number of solutions on question number 7. 2x plus 3 equals 2x plus 7. Notice that in this question, we have the same number of x's in both cases. So you can imagine whatever you plug in for x on the left, that 2x is going to end up looking just like the 2x on the right, exactly the same. But there is a difference between the two sides on this equation, plus 3 over here and plus 7 over here. Because of that difference, there will never be a solution to this equation. A is the correct choice. There's never a solution to this equation. One side will always be bigger than the other, and the side that's bigger is obviously the right. Adding 7 to something is going to make it bigger than adding 3 would make it. So no matter what you plug in for x, you always end up bigger on the right side of this equation. No solution. Number 8, similar problem, number of solutions issue. In this case, you might want to consider what it would look like after we distributed. We got to send that 2 in to both places. So 4x plus 6 on the left remains, but we're also looking at 4x plus 6 on the right. 4x plus 6 equals 4x plus 6. And this sure feels like it would always be equal. It's the exact same thing, and sure enough, we have infinite solutions. 4x plus 6 will always equal 4x plus 6 no matter what x you plug in. You could put a 0 in there, you'd have 6 equals 6. You could put a 1 in there, you'd have 10 equals 10. Any other number you try, left side will equal right side, always. No matter what, infinite solutions, you could also potentially see that written as all real numbers. Any real number you can think of to plug in for x would work the same on both sides, making a true equation. All right, number 9 is a word problem. Taxi charges $2 for up to and including the first mile, and $1.60 for each mile thereafter. What would the taxi charge for a trip of 4 miles? Make sure you read this a couple of times and that you're really clear on exactly how it works. In this case, this taxi charges $2 for any trip up to and including the first mile. So a 1 mile trip costs $2. A half a mile trip costs $2. A quarter of a mile trip costs $2 a 3/4 of a mile trip costs $2. Why you're taking a 1/4 of a mile trip, I don't know, in a taxi, but if you did, it would cost $2. And $1.60 for each mile thereafter. So what would the taxi charge for a trip of 4 miles? Now the trick with this problem is to consider what would the first mile cost. The first mile, of course, would cost $2. We talked about that for a long time. The second mile would, of course, cost $1.60 because that's an additional mile. The third mile would cost $1.60. It's an additional mile. And, of course, the fourth mile would cost $1.60. So what we have here is $2 plus $1.60 plus $1.60 plus $1.60. You certainly could solve this problem by just adding. So let me get that calculator up and on, ready to be used, and let's drag it over here so we can see exactly what we're doing. We're just going to take 2 and we are going to add 1.6 3 times, 1.6 times 3. And the calculator understands that it needs to follow order of operations. It'll multiply before it does the adding. So this should give us the right answer of 6.8. Sure enough, I see 680 down there. D, that is going to be your correct choice.
Nancy Claudio, Chris Durall, and Kat Phillips need to go to the auditorium, outside the auditorium for your pictures.
All right, Maria wants to buy a new tennis racket that costs $30. She has 8 and plans to save $2 each week. How many weeks will it take her to save the money? So first off, let's think about how much she actually needs. The tennis racket costs $30, but she already has 8. So she's starting off from a position of needing $22. She's going to save $2 each week. So $22 is what she needs. The question is how many pieces of $2 each would she need to put together in order to have the total amount. This is division. We're going to take that 22, we're going to divide it by $2 per week, and it's going to give us 11 weeks. And if you want to add that up for yourself, you could certainly do that. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. This is going to get a little tedious, so you could do it. If you wanted to add 11 2's, you would find that you were at 22, plus the 8 you had originally brings you to $30. This is your correct choice, 11 weeks. And that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you very much for checking in.